And the stream has begun. So I've been talking with some people here in the chat before the stream started, so we already have some questions. One of them was that the LCD1 in the base, is it the same as the LCD2? You know, Odyssey said to me that it's hard to seal the LCD1 on their measurement head, and it certainly was that case to me on the mini DSP ears. But honestly, I was not able to get a seal, if there is a thing, as a perfect seal on it, to the point where the base extends all the way. So there's a slight shelf downward, actually, toward the very bottom on it. I don't think it's much. Maybe it's like 2 dB or something. So actually, I put a Harman shelf of 2 decibels at 100 hertz as a low shelf to fix that. But anyway, am I sounding okay? Is everything working? I can never know for sure. So hopefully this is all working correctly. And I really hope my mini DSP ears didn't get selected as the mic. That would be hilarious. Anyway, welcome everybody. Let's see. Have I heard a Grado other than the SR80? I think I heard. It's funny. There's a local hi-fi store near me, and I went there years ago before I'd ever heard any expensive stuff, and they had an LCDX. It was definitely a good one, and I was blown away because I'd never heard what details sounded like before, because I only had an HD600 at that time. Wow, that's savage to say against the Sennheiser. It's not that bad, but they also had a GS1000 there. I put it on, and I almost laughed in the face of the owner of the store. I was like, this can't be that expensive. This is terrible. I mean, I was nice about it, but wow, I can't believe how expensive that thing is. I think Joshua Velour did a video on one of those GS series Grados and essentially came to the same conclusion. It's terrible. For that price in particular, like, I really wouldn't spend more than the SR80 or the SR60 if you want to try a Grado, because they don't get that much better than that, I don't think. What do we got here? Everything sound good. I think you're watching the wrong stream there, Antivirus UK. ASMR through the ears when you don't want to do that, and the reason why is because the ears has a ridiculously non-neutral, obviously because it's a measurement system, natural response. So everything would just be shooting you in the eardrum with 4.5K peak if I did that. I think Max Settings tried to go live. No, he didn't try. He did go live on a voice chat with me once using the mini DSP ears as a mic, and everyone's ears were like shattered. You don't want to do that. Trust me. Not a good device for that sort of thing. I would have to EQ it after the fact, probably. But definitely not live, at least. Let's see. DT9. I was disappointed with DT1990's dipped mids. Oh, yeah. Are you talking about which K240? Are you talking about the Studio, like the Mark II one? Because, yeah, that one's a little bit forward versus the 1990, definitely. But I don't like mids that are that forward either, so I don't know what to say. I guess you could, I mean, honestly, the obvious answer here is probably the HD6XX if you want just a little bit forward mids, in kind of the same vein as the 240, but with the correct timbre, though. Oh, you have the sextets. Oh, okay. Well, the sextets are quite, at least my LP is pretty recessed versus like an HD600. So if you want those like smooth liquid mids, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how many people here have actually heard of sextet, so that's a difficult recommendation for me to make. Oh, I bet Bert's got like 6 of them though. There's Bert. Oh, K371 is awesome. Now that's good to see. It seems like more and more people who are hearing those are seeming to like them. So I'm glad some of the people agree with me at least a little bit there. Oh yeah, the ASMR 3DO. Right. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to use the mini DSP ears for ASMR. That would be really bad. Which sextet do you have, Bert? I know there's a lot of them. The one with the orange passive radiators is the early production. That's like the most sought after one apparently, because it's the warmest and most rare or something like that. Not sure if that's true or not. That's just what I remember reading. Thoughts on the Z1R? You mean like the full size? Yeah, definitely overpriced. I thought the bass was really fun and it had a nice amount of detail, I think, from what I heard at Can Jam, but like the mids and highs are just like way not good for that price. Let's see. Demoed the Empyrean this weekend in my local shop and was surprised that I 100% agree with you. The loss of detail compared to my main headphones was very audible. What main headphones? The LCD4? Because, yeah, I would definitely do it. I don't think the Empyrean is worse in detail than like the Sennheisers, though, or anything like that. But it's definitely not $3,000 worth. Oh boy, protect your ears. I had heard a pop messing with EQ with a power DAC, and my left ear wasn't the same for a couple hours. Yeah, you gotta. It's, you know, what's especially dangerous is plugging in like Campfire Andromedas into like a 789. If you don't turn the volume way down, you could really mess things up. Or if you change the gain switch with some sensitive headphones and IEMs, you could like die, I swear. Oh wow, Princess Pasta is asking me out already. Wow, that's fast. Just kidding. Yeah, we better go to dinner with DMS and Z and you and all kinds of people. We got to get a huge like dinner group at Can Jam. Yeah, if those don't know, I'm going to Can Jam in New York in February. I went this year. I went last year. It's always a good time, even if you don't get to all the headphones. You do get to meet a lot of people, and it's really fun interacting with the fans in person. It's just a good time. It's really bizarre for this hobby, because I feel like a lot of the people who go to Can Jam are like, people. What are people? We don't deal with people. We deal with headphones only. So it's always fun to get out there, and people are almost always very respectful, and it's a good time. Let's see. Did I get the K361 yet? I knew that was going to happen. No, I emailed my contact over there at AKG, and they haven't gotten back to me yet. I think they actually responded with an away message, so I think I'm going to hear back from them sometime in early November. Hopefully there'll be some kind of update on when that'll be available. I don't want to have anybody send me one of those as a viewer, because they already said that they were going to send me one. So patience. I know, I'm as anxious to hear it as you guys. Let's see. When is the Bitcoin Lambo? Yeah, you know what? I never got into crypto, actually. I bet a lot of you guys probably are, but I never bothered. It's just too volatile. And I know that that's probably going to get a lot of flack for me saying that, but that's because if I were to get into it, it would be an investment thing. And it's not a very good thing to invest in. But if you're doing it for the whole, like, get away from fiat money thing, yeah, I can understand that. At least as far as I know. I haven't looked into it that much. Why don't I like the SHP 9500? My review on that was actually not that negative, but that's because it was something like $50 at the time, and I've seen it going for like 80 now, and that's pushing it too much. Like, there's a lot of bass roll off, and despite what the ratings graph shows as far as the shape of the curve, it's a very grainy headphone too, and the soundstage is awful for an open back. Not gonna lie, that's what I heard out of it. So I don't know why it's being rated so highly, except for other reviewers being very, very happy about it. Oh, wow, I did forget about the Neumanns, didn't I? I forgot I had them. I haven't had them on for like a while. All right, you know what? I'll be right back. I'm going to go get those, just so people can see what they look like for me. I don't think I'm going to actually wear them, because that would be bad. Because that would be... Yeah, thank you for the comments on my physique again. Yeah, for some reason, these are not very comfortable for me, but Max Settings sent me the pair that he used for review. So that's these. And yeah, they're okay, I guess. I need an X00 in order to actually review them, probably, even though that's not really the same thing. But I don't know. I'm not really a huge fan of them in general, but they're okay, and that's hard to find already in the closed back. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, this is a good one. Have I met Tile? No, and that's really sad. I always wanted to meet Tile in person, but never did get a chance before he retired, because he was still doing reviews, I think, the first time I went to Can Jam in New York, but he didn't go. I think he was more going to the RMAF show stuff. Let's see. Yeah, the T1's probably a good recommendation if you've lost a lot of high-frequency hearing. Alex versus LCD1. That's tough. I don't know, because it depends on what kind of sound you like with those, I guess. I'd have to compare them to know how the detail compares, though, because that's a little different. What made me choose the Atticus over the Icon? Yeah, this is a good question. Okay. I think I talked about this in the Atticus versus Icon review. But yeah, the Icon's got better bass extension and dynamics. That's right. Than the Atticus. Did it have better imaging? I don't know what I said there, but I will say that the width of the soundstage in the Atticus is bigger, and that makes it more, I don't know, it makes it more pleasing for me to listen to. But it's also the fact that the mids are a lot more in line. The Icon's pretty forward there in the mids, so I'd rather EQ things forward than back. Although the Atticus's highs, I've got this really sharp peak at 11K, so I have to kill that quite a bit. But, other than that, there isn't that much off about it. The mid bass also is pretty elevated, so I've turned that down a bit too. Yeah, I'll eventually get around to talking about the Atticus. I just have so much stuff I still gotta do here. And a lot of questions about this too, the LCD1 versus the Sundara. I wish I could answer those. I don't have the Sundara at home. I've never had it at home yet. So I couldn't tell you for sure. But I will say that from, my short demos of it before, it's been too aggressive in the upper mids and the highs for me personally. I don't know if it's actually a bad headphone at the price, but I highly doubt that. But I don't think it will be my choice, and that's a difficult thing to that's a difficult part of reviewing. I have to separate, okay, something might be bright, but tonally it might be very correct. I just wouldn't like it, but other people might, so I have to be careful about that, and that's why I still recommend things like the DT880 and whatever, and the Q701, K702, that kind of thing, because I don't really like that stuff anymore, because once I started EQing, I realized that my preference was much warmer. So that's essentially what happened there. But those are good headphones still. So that's probably where Sundara is going to fall under, but I'm not sure yet. Have I heard the MDR 7520? No. So in other words, the problems with the Icon can be fixed with EQ, but EQ can't fix the shortcomings of the Atticus. I think it's the other way, really, at least for me. There are some things that each headphone does better than each other, but for my personal preference, having the upper mids that aggressive and forward is kind of annoying. So that's why I'd rather start with the mids be more to my preference first and EQ the other parts of it. So that's kind of where I went with that. Thank you for the Canadian buckaroos there, Pasta. And I forgot to thank you, Tonk, also for that super chat, asking about the Icon and Atticus. Appreciate that. Is the Sundara more aggressive than the 400i on the upper end? I don't know. That's a good question for max settings. I think he's done the Sundara already. I totally forget already. I think our what's it called? Our decision, kind of joint decision on 4XX versus Sundara kind of boils down to something like basically the Sundara is a lot more expensive for not a lot of benefit over the 4XX and 400i, something like that. But again, I haven't heard it at home. It's very important to me not to use meat impressions alone to make these final statements about things, because we all know how inaccurate it is if you've ever been to a meet. I will trade a Nanda plus money for your Atticus. We'll see what happens. Honestly, I want to see what I think about the Verite closed, and if it's good enough, I might order one with another purple stain. And then at that point, I'll probably sell the Atticus, and then I'm gonna let the Patreons know first if I am selling it and how much I'm selling it for. And if nobody in there bites, then I'll go on YouTube next, announcing it. And then if that doesn't work, then I will probably list it on AV Exchange, Headfi, something like that. Although I have a feeling that somebody in my subscriber base is going to end up buying it anyway. But we'll see. I don't have any plans to sell it yet, so sorry guys. I know some people are actually really excited about it. I was surprised because I feel like getting that purple stain was such a weird decision that actually might have hurt my resale value because it was so unusual. Some people just want straight up wood and not like pasta. But sorry. But I decided to have the purple stain put on mine, which is a little different. LCD1 versus Sign. Ooh, that's a really good question. I think the Sign and the LCD1 and the Mobius running default EQ are actually somewhat similar sounding to each other. So I haven't heard them back to back though, so this is just me guessing. Because it's important that the LCD2, 3, and 4 are all separated, and the LCDX then from the LCD1 Sign and Mobius. Those two are like categories of different frequency responses. That's my point there. You guys are very welcome. Thanks for the kind words on thanking me for all the videos. That's my purpose, is really to help people buy what they enjoy. Just because I enjoyed something doesn't mean that everyone else is going to enjoy it. So it's important for me to describe the sound relative to what I perceive as neutral, and so that if I say something is slightly bright, but your preference aligns more with a different headphone, that would still be useful. That's the best we can do, really. Old and moldy DT770. Yeah, it's not moldy. Actually, I meant to show that off. So, for those who haven't been following me on Twitter, this happened again. And some people know exactly what this is and how notorious my review was of these things. But they're back, and what I decided to do is buy an older chassis. So you can see this one's kind of beat up. It's about a decade old because I bought it from the original owner. Obviously, these are not the original pads. I had to replace them immediately. But yeah, this does sound like my old one from what I remember, which is good because there was something wrong with the DT770 80 ohm I bought after about around the time I did the 1770 review. And then later, I was just reading on Reddit earlier that I think it was Demovalos. He was talking about how he had complained about some of the sound changes, and Biodynamic looked into it, and they were like, "Oh, we might have been using a different plastic a couple years ago," and so we switched back. So I'm hoping the newest DT770s sound like my original one, because it seems like the 80 ohm really is the odd one out, but it's supposed to be the odd one out in a specific way, and this one is. Just like my old one. So that's an interesting story. Unit variation, man, and keeping up the same. I can understand it from a company's perspective, you can't use the same materials forever. You can't build everything exactly the same over like 20, 30 years. It doesn't work like that. So yeah. Let's see what we got. Sorry about that. That's probably way too much information about the TT770, but that's a fun headphone. Oh, the mic. Yeah, okay, I saw this question earlier. This is a Rode NT1. You can see it. And honestly, I want to oh, sorry about your subwoofer, by the way, with that. That does tend to happen. And I want to thank Podcastage for that one, because he really loves this headphone too. Although somebody, I don't remember who it was, recommended me this mic years ago. When I looked at it, I saw it was fairly neutral and it had a ridiculously low self noise. So those two things were exactly what I was looking for. And I wasn't looking to spend, like $1,000 on a mic or something. So this really hit all the marks. But honestly, I think I would toy with the idea of trying an SM7B now or an RE20, but I don't think it's really necessary yet. I just want people on the other end listening with multi-tens of thousands of dollars of equipment to not be offended at the microphone quality from somebody who supposedly reviews headphones and cares a little bit about audio quality. Sorry about the camera, though. It is the best webcam you can buy right now, though. So I tried. All right, let's see. Have I been able to listen to a clear next? No, I've not. Although apparently Resolve Reviews has already reviewed it, which is interesting. I also have a Rode NT1. This is now. This was tough to find because this is an official Rode cover. Not that it's hard to find, but I couldn't figure out. I couldn't find anywhere where it specifically called out that this windscreen worked with the NT1. It was only like the NT1000. Oh god, old tile mic quality. Oh my god, yeah. I'm glad it's not that. I'll have to look it up for you, but if you find one that fits an NT style microphone, actually that's probably not even enough because there's a lot of NT mics. I can look that up. Let's see. Rode windscreen NT1. It says it fits like the NT. It's a WS2. That's it. It says it fits the NT1A, NT2A, NT1000, NT2000, but nothing says it fits the NT1. So I'm just going to confirm it does fit the NT1. So if you're looking for it, yeah, it's the Rode WS2. That's right. And I like that because the huge like pop filter it comes with, that's just this like flat panel, is way too big. And then I was using multiple other pop filters before, and they were still hiding more of my face. So this phallic looking thing is actually the best choice, I think, because it hides less of my face. But everyone knows you gotta have the mic in the shot at all times, or else it's not a Metal 571 review anyway. Are people hearing the mic clipping? Because I can back down the gain a little bit. Maybe I got too close, and I didn't hear it clip in my headphones. So what do I think about chi-fi stuff? Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I'm not seeing it clip. Oh, okay. You know what? Is it actually? All right, let me see something. I'm going to listen to my own stream now. Oh, okay, it's not clipping now. Wow, the delay is very short, actually. I'm surprised. I backed it off a little bit, so hopefully that will alleviate any further clipping. I was probably getting too close to the mic, too. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I was about to talk about chi-fi. Oh, maybe that's because it's not plugged in. I don't know. I'm not hearing anything from the interface. Oh, Firefox is to blame for that? Oh, God. I don't know what YouTube is doing anymore. Yeah, chi-fi stuff. I haven't listened to that many IEMs. But if you're talking about the full-size stuff, yeah, it depends. This. I guess you could technically... That's not really chi-fi. I mean, it's built off of a chi-fi design. This, for those who don't know, is a Monoprice M570, which I finally did get. So if you want me to talk about that, I will in a second. Let me see what other questions we got here, though. Favorite fast food thing to get? It's funny. When I was very young, I think my favorite thing by far was the Burger King chicken sandwich, the original chicken sandwich, nothing else. I don't know why, but that will always be one of my favorites, even though I really don't eat that very much anymore. Thankfully, because I can't. At first, your neutrality standard was the HG600, right? Then the 660S dethroned it, not the 650. But now I think the 650 is a better neutrality reference than the 600. Can I expand? Yeah. It was helpful to have all three of them now here at the same time, because I didn't before. So the first thing is that the 660S review, I don't think is wrong still, because in the 600, I just had one recently and resold it. The mids were not as detailed. And so as far as me saying the 660S is more detailed than the 600, I still think that's true. But what I didn't realize is that the 650 is also more detailed than the 600. And partially because the mids are not as aggressively forward and they're not as hazed over, just slightly. So that's why I went with the 650. it's just like, I mean, a lot of those Sennheisers are close, but they all differ slightly from each other. I use EQ on them all, really, but only a little bit. Right now, the mids and highs, my standard is a 650 with -2 at 3.5K. So that's what I'm comparing pretty much everything to. The LCD1 with the EQ I posted with it is very, very close also to my neutral reference, and it only takes 2 dB at the most. It's only 2 dB off at the most throughout the whole frequency response. So yeah, I know a lot of people like the DT880 and the 1990, and I can't understand that, except for the fact that it's, diffuse field neutral, and I don't like that. So it's what it is. I might have clipped there. Try not to clip. It sounds like some people are having issues with clipping on different browsers. That's so bizarre. I've never heard that before. So hopefully this sounds okay now. What do I think of the M570? Oh, yeah. Okay, so people do... Oh, let me answer this first. LCD1 versus the Edition XX. No. No Edition XX. Now, however, I will say the one that I was sent was like serial number 0. Seriously. Serial number 0000. Yeah, have you seen my review of the Edition XX? It's bad. It's just straight up not worth the money. Mainly because the detail is just really not good at all. But again, I think I need another serial number just to make sure, because pretty much everybody, not like I trust Headfi, but people on Headfi were like, you got to do it again with a different serial number because it's not that bad. And I'm like, okay. I can only review what I'm sent, and Drop sent me that Edition XX with that serial, and it was not good. So that's what I said. But anyway, the M570 is another unfinished monoprice product. And I say it's a little unfinished because it's got, instead of having a discontinuity in the frequency response at 4.5K, it's got a discontinuity somewhere between like 600 and 900 hertz. And this is one of the most bizarre effects I've heard in a headphone, but this, yeah, those are Belons, don't lie. No, I swear it's an M570, even though it doesn't say anywhere on it that that's what it is, which I'm just noticing. Literally says nowhere that it's monoprice except for the logo here, I guess. Anyway, yeah, so the mids here sound like a guitar cabinet. That's probably the best way I can say it, because they have some kind of resonance that sounds like a closed back headphone in an open back headphone. So when you hear people's voices or electric guitar distortion or something, there's like this honk around 600 to 900 hertz somewhere in there that just kind of slowly decays. It sounds like it's being played in a box, and the box is reverberating. It's not like a really long decay, or it doesn't sound broken like the M1060 did with its actual like bell-like ring sound, but it sounds like it's closed in some ways. It's just, it's really weird. So it doesn't sound normal in any way because of that. But I will say I hate it way less than the M1060. And maybe there's a reason that they did that to this headphone. Maybe it's because they improved the soundstage, or maybe they just messed up something with the structure. It sounds like a structure problem more than a driver problem. So I'm not sure what happened there. But I will say that other than that, I mean, the bass is fine. I don't know if it's that dynamic. The treble doesn't sound as detailed as it did on the Iva, which is what this is based on. It's basically a Sendy Iva driver. It's not basically, it is the Sendy Iva driver. But, man, the treble is so aggressive from 10K up, just like the Iva. I think the first thing I did was put like a -6 shelf on it above 10K. It was that ridiculous. If you use enough EQ, you can get it to sound passable. I guess this is probably just as a preview of what that review is going to be. The M570 is an acceptable monoprice headphone, considering that it's built really well. Why do I need to EQ everything? Because nothing sounds good. That's why. There's almost nothing that sounds like I want it to, or like a speaker that I like. That's why I EQ everything. Answer that question quickly. But it also comes with this nice case, which is in the box, included for free. So that's kind of cool. The box is pretty minimal. It's mostly this case and then the headphones, and then the cable's not half bad either. It's not, you know, like braid. It is braided, I guess. Is this even called braid? I don't know, but this is some kind of like soft cable, and it's not bad, but I mean, Zeos wouldn't like it because it's not like paracord and doesn't cost like about $2,000, but you know, it's passable. And the headphone's pretty heavy, actually. I think it weighs about 515 grams, something like that is what I measured. So it's pretty heavy. It's not quite as heavy as an LCD2, but it's almost there. But it's the build quality is really good. Like, I have to say, that was what surprised me. Like, it's built really well. So I mean, for $299, it's not, you know, a waste of money necessarily, but it doesn't sound quite finished to me. So there's your mini review of the M570 anyway. And yeah, EQ is free. There is no research that I'm aware of, by the way, that specifically says that people's ear shapes are not compensated for by their brain, such that headphones sound different to each person. So I wouldn't say for sure, yes, everybody absolutely hears a headphone completely differently yet, but it's possible. That's one of the problems with over-ear headphones, and people's ear shapes might have something to do with that, but I cannot tell you for sure if that's true. But that's kind of like an ongoing question, and I've asked a lot of people about that already. Which journal? Honestly curious, because that's tough to figure out, because like you can't get inside each person's brain. I mean, you can obviously measure with an in-ear mic how people's ears affect the sound, but can we prove that the brain can compensate for each person's ear resonance? Because usually it does. That's why speakers on a flat line measuring on a mic is actually neutral. So that's difficult. Well, I think Harman stated that EQ shouldn't be made above 10K. That's the biggest problem because there's so much variation there. But for the Harman research, as far as I know, that's just an average of people's preferences. That's people deciding, hey, I want this much bass and I want this much treble, so they've averaged it. And the ear simulators I know of on Hatz's are an average reproduction of the ear. So yeah, it's possible. But again, the brain compensates for the ear shape to create the sound that you expect from speakers hitting you in the room. So it's a difficult area of research. Obviously, I am not. I am clearly an idiot, and people in here have published thousands of papers by comparison to me. So I'm going to stop. But that's all I know so far. I don't want to get out of my element there too much. I guess people have read way more papers than I have, clearly, here. The Army ADI2. Yes, I'm aware that has some really interesting EQ settings. But yeah, it's like, what, $900,000, something like that. And for a DAC, that's just way too much for me to spend right now. Not that it's not worth it to some people, because I've heard it sounds very, very good too, independent of all its features. Soundstage on Aeolus and yeah, by the way, Aeolus. I think Zach says it Aeolus, by the way, which I discovered after the review, which was stupid. But when I Googled it, it was pronounced Aeolus. But anyway, I have no idea anymore what that's supposed to be. Unless, I don't know, what is that? That word is Greek, isn't it? So if anybody actually speaks Greek in here or something, maybe that will help. But anyway, the Ananda, yeah, I can't tell you how the soundstage compares to Ananda, because I haven't had the Ananda at home, or Ananda, or whatever. It is the Greek god of the wind, though. That is correct, with the AE being one letter. Yep. But I just don't know how to pronounce that. But compared to the 1990s, yeah, I'm pretty sure Aeolus is not as wide. Aeolus is only slightly more wide, I think, than the Sennheisers. It's really the frequency response that's impressive. And you can customize it really nicely with different pads. That's what's really nice about it. I just like the way it sounds timbre-wise and whatnot. It's quite good. Can you show us how to start EQ for us that don't? I made a video on equalizer APO and piece, so you can look at that. I probably totally disagree with the profile I made, but it just kind of goes over the process that I use to equalize headphones. Looking at graphs as a guide, but obviously you want your ears as the ultimate guide, so that will help you. Harman's target, and no, I was serious. Like, so if you guys have written papers, then you're way ahead of me. Because really, I only talk to people who have read the AES papers. I haven't actually read the AES papers myself. So at some point, I do need to sit down and read all of Olive's work, because that is important for me to be talking about Harman and not having read the papers. I know I should disqualify me as a reviewer probably, but just putting that out there. This was asked already. LCD1 versus Sundara. Yeah, I haven't heard the Sundara at home again. And so, but from what I know, it's probably too aggressive for me, but that doesn't disqualify it as a headphone worth buying. I just haven't heard it to review it like that yet. Why can't people make headphones with Harman tuning? Shaking my head. It exists. It's called this. K371 is very, very close. It just has a bass shelf that's lower, starts lower than the Harman tuning. If you want to hear what the Harman response sounds like, get a K371. It's probably the best thing I can say about it. Apparently the N700NC is tuned with the curve as well. The new Samsung Galaxy Buds are too, because Samsung owns Harman, who owns AKG. It's a big conglomerate. And if you're hearing a buzzing, that's just my sump pump. Sorry. Listening to the stream of my Anandas. Hopefully this mic doesn't sound too bright on him. This mic is not that bright anyway. I mean, not compared to some things like the higher end Lewitt. I don't know how to pronounce that either. Best wide, accurate, enjoyable soundstage and imaging at $600 or less. Planar is a plus. I would just buy a used LCD2. I don't remember how much Anandas go for, but I imagine that would be pretty fun too in terms of soundstage. So that's some stuff to look at. But as far as new and planar under 600, I can't really think of anything. Technically, the soundstage on this is also better, and it's at least wider. I don't know if the imaging is better than LCD1. So one thing I will say about this headphone, the M570. But yeah, it just sounds a little odd. I don't know how I feel about it yet. Ananda's about $650 used. Okay. Yeah, stretch your budget just a little bit there and look at that. Depending on whether you like slightly warmer LCD2 or slightly brighter like the Ananda. Not like the Ananda's bright. I mean, it's not a very bright headphone for a hyphaman, I think. That might be worth trying. Oh yeah, that's right. The Ananda's $850. I keep forgetting about that. Yeah, it's no longer $1,000. Sundara is not my taste in trouble. You mean it's like too bright, or is it not bright enough? Like, you need a DT990 clearly. I mean, oh Chase, you got an LCD too? Oh really? Did you actually end up owning one? I totally forget now. Oh yeah, didn't we have a conversation on Patreon about that? Wow. I swear I don't remember yesterday at this point. Getting old already. My name has metal in it. Do I like Between the Buried and Me? I haven't listened to that band in particular. Why am I making everything creak over here? Okay. I haven't listened to that band, honestly. A lot of metal I'm listening to right now is some mix of hardcore and new metal and 80s metal. That's essentially what I like Chimera, Slayer, Hatebreed, Terror, stuff like that. But I still I'm a big Metallica fan. I'm a first 4 albums Metallica kind of guy. So, let's see. Is a TT990 600 home good for classical music? I don't know how to respond to that, because the funny thing is, some people really like it for classical music. I find it ridiculous sounding for anything, because it just has so much treble and so much sibilance that it doesn't make much sense. I would rather buy the DT880 600 ohm, because that also doesn't have this weird mid-bass hump to it. If you want a brighter, clinical kind of headphone, analytical kind of headphone, DT880, that's a good one. I also like the K701 for that sort of thing, or the K702 with the removable cable, whichever is cheaper. Really, those two sound very similar, if not the same. Most detailed headphone I've tried. This might surprise some people, but yeah, if you already own the DT8600, then yeah, don't buy the DT990. It's already pretty much as good as you're going to get there, without going to much higher pricing. Anyway, back to the question. Most detailed headphone I've ever tried. This would be surprising, but right now, HiFiMan's Shangri-La. Not even kidding. That is a very thin sounding headphone. Like, it's got a lot of mids and treble, and the bass just drops a lot and then goes flat. Actually, Oratory, I think, has measured it already, which is pretty interesting. But the way that thing resolved was ridiculous. Probably better than I've heard anything. Better than the LCD4, maybe, even too. But it better be, because if you buy the headphone on its own, it's $18,000. So I hope so. I think that's their competitor to the Orpheus, actually. I have not heard the Orpheus, though. That is something I still need to do. Yeah, it's on the thinner, probably one of the thinnest. We called it the, what did we call it in Discord? The lean meme or something like that. It's a very lean sounding headphone. It's not that the bass doesn't extend, the thin meme, that's what it was. But do you agree though, Max? I mean, like, the detail I think put out was ridiculous. Like, at least what I heard what was playing. But you have to be listening to like jazz or classical. It sounds like there's nothing there in the bass with modern music, probably. I thought it was really good. But yeah, it's yeah, I wouldn't buy that obviously because it's way too expensive for normal people. Let's see what we got here. Nah. Talking about the guy who was talking about the DT990s, Antivirus says, nah, he needs T90s. Oh boy, please don't do that. I remember Z's review on the T90s sums it up. Z just started out that review by taking a shot of liquor and then continues like, I'm gonna need this for the treble, and that's like ridiculously accurate. Wow, a lot of questions here. A lot of questions. 880 versus 990, 600 ohm for speed and imaging. I don't even care because the 990 is just like so ridiculously bright that I just wouldn't use it anyway. But if you're really asking that, I think the 990 has a better soundstage. Also because it's more open. Technically, the 990 is a full open, the 880 is a semi-open, even though they're both basically open. So I would think the 990 is a little bit better for imaging and soundstage in general, from what I remember hearing. I have not tried the Philips X2 or the X2 HR. I have reviewed the THX00 already, so you can look at that, but I haven't reviewed any of the Philips. Is there a headphone that sounds like LCD1 but with a wide soundstage? Yeah, not yet. Maybe Odyssey will be the first to create it. I guess the Ananda might, but that's just conjecture because I haven't heard it. Yeah, I agree, Max. It's hard to say because of show impressions, but I wasn't familiar with the music either that they were playing, but whatever they were playing that was recorded really well for jazz, it did sound crazy, like especially like hi-hats and whatever. It's pretty good. Best imaging. If you have to have the most pinpoint imaging, honestly, the T1 was really surprising. I don't like that headphone at all because of the treble in it again, but it doesn't have a wide soundstage, but the directionality of it is super pinpoint. That's what I remember. It's okay, Michael. These get uploaded after the fact anyway, so don't worry. Just mark how far I am, and I'm like, 45 minutes in now. Most expensive headphones I own. You're actually looking at them right there. The LCD2, and I guess technically you could say the HD800 is more expensive because it used to MSRP for $1,500. It's not what I paid though. For either of them, I didn't pay MSRP for either of them. The HD800 was $975, I think. Got it not that long before it went out of production, and then the LCD2 was whatever, $650, something like that, I think. But yeah, they're both kilobuck headphones, just not multi-kilobuck. Those are the two I actually own that are expensive. I don't like to own too many expensive headphones, just stuff I like. Excuse me, sorry. Most comfortable full-size headphone, MA900. Ooh, I always wanted to try one of those because that they're notorious for their comfort. And I remember years ago on Headfi, which isn't saying much. Bert's been in the hobby a lot longer than I have, so he knows way more about the history of headphones. But I remember a couple years ago, especially when Lachlan Likes a Thing reviewed the MA900, it was kind of like a affordable HD650, something like that. But I have no idea. Yeah, it's a Sony. Have I tried the ZMF Verite? Only briefly at CanJam, so I can't say much about it. I play Eurobeat in order to make your voice go faster. You know what? You can watch my reviews at like 1.75 because that's how I watch my own reviews. It helps. But for a live show, unfortunately, I cannot speed up my own voice. DT80 250 ohm for production and mastering. Can't fit monitors. It's still a little bright, though. I mean, I don't know any studio monitors that sound like the DT880. No speakers sound like it, at least to my ears. So that's why I'm just like, I mean, maybe, but they're just going to be too bright. I want to start reviewing IEMs. Which company should I start shilling? No idea. If you want to be cool with the hardcore IEM crowd, then you can get the ER4B apparently. But I definitely want to try IEMs like the ER4XR and the ER4SR and the modern ERs to see how those do, because I haven't heard those yet, and they're important. That's one reason why I don't review IEMs yet. I haven't heard all the ones that are supposedly referenced and flat and whatever, so I don't know how I feel about them all yet. More detailed than Tile's review of the Ultrasound. I like that. Have my thoughts on the X00 changed? Not really. I mean, it's still kind of expensive for what it is, but it's just so much fun, and the bass slam is great. The Ebony is a pretty fun headphone. If you could treble out and you'll notice less detail than its fake detail. If the headphone's bright and you EQ the treble down and then what's left doesn't sound very detailed, then yeah. It's kind of an easier way. It's kind of cheating, but it's kind of how I separate the FR from detail also. Like, the L700 responded incredibly well to adjusting 10K, like ridiculous, and that was kind of a telltale sign. Would I take the LCD2C over the 2F? I reviewed those two back to back, and yeah, I ended up selling the 2 Classics, so I think that tells you everything right there. The LCD2 Phaser is a little bit smoother sounding in the frequency response, so I like that about it. Some people are all up in arms about how the bass slam is way different on the 2 Phaser for some reason, and I just don't hear that. I think the phasers are the upgrade, but whether that's worth $200 to you or whatever is up for debate. But if you're buying those two used, as long as it's a 2016 or later anyway, LCD2 phaser, sometimes the pricing is very similar, and if the pricing is very similar, I would just choose the phaser. Let's see. When upgraded to the 789, was it a noticeable improvement over the Magni 3? Honestly, again, I'm not big into amps and DACs, and they're just very subtle. I think the only things I noticed with the 789 is it's a little bit more analytical in the highs. I don't even know if it's necessarily brighter or not. It's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's difficult to describe. And there's just a slight bump of sub bass, I think, too. It also depends on the gain. For some reason, gains 1 and 2 on the 789 sound slightly different than the third gain. The third gain is like overly slammy and ever so slightly V-shaped. I don't know. That's how I hear it anyway. Could be all in my head. It's just too close to tell. For me, dynamics and detail are totally separate things, but because you can have a bass region that can distinguish individual notes really well, but it might be really sloppy in terms of like how it responds to transients. So it depends. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Have I tried the HE1000 SE? Yes, but only at a meet, so max settings might have more thoughts on that than I do. I thought it was pretty aggressively bright, but very, very detailed, yet somehow more efficient than the Ananda, so that was surprising. I don't know. What do I think about the DT1990 Pro? Oh, don't get me started on that thing. I still think the 880 is a way better value, so that's what I'm going to continue to recommend until I can get those two back in my room at the same time, which eventually will happen. But I had to take down the review because everyone was like, ooh, IL571 recommends the DT1990 under every possible condition. That seems to be what people took away from it, and that's not really what I meant for people to take away from it. So because it was perceived that way, I just unlisted it because I don't want people going out buying that headphone being like, oh yeah, this is totally Metal 571's favorite headphone for this price, because it's not. But for me, the whatever the Tesla drivers did to the treble is just, I don't know. It doesn't sound that great to me. It's less detailed. It's more hazed over. Emutique. Yeah, I tried them briefly, but I didn't end up getting around to the review. Basically, the upper mids are a lot more aggressive. Maybe not a lot more, but decently more. At least, like, I'd say like maybe 3 dB more, 3.5K than the X00 stuff. But so that was kind of annoying, and I couldn't really EQ it out. But the treble was a lot more detailed, which surprised me. I didn't know that the Fostex cans, as you went up from there, got more detailed. Odyssey can make an LCD with the LCD1 FR and the LCD2 soundstage. That'd be amazing. Well, you come to the right channel, because that's exactly what I've been thinking. Got my LCD2C for $450. Now we're talking. Now that's a price. That's a good price. LCD2 phaser is detailed considering the actual frequency response. Good example of treble response not equaling detail. It's decent. I mean, I need to put it up against the Ananda, and I feel like the HD800 is a little bit more detailed as well, where you can get that for a similar price to the LCD2 phaser used. But the problem is the frequency response to HD800 is just so off from my my personal preference. So that's kind of why I switched. But that doesn't mean that the LCD2 is the most detailed headphone ever. I think it's okay for $1,000, but I wouldn't buy it new, honestly. Or you can ask a dealer to give you a good price, if you have to buy it new at least. Do I listen to FLAC? I have some FLAC, like selected tracks that I want to use, but I don't have like a big collection of it or anything like that. Most of the time I'm just listening to Spotify. But you know, when you get past when you get into the really expensive stuff like LCD4, Susvara, Utopia, stuff like that, that's when I'll break out the FLAC, because then it starts to become a little bit more obvious, some of the compression on some songs on Spotify, not all. So that's how I feel about that. I mean, but if you're asking it straight up, like 320K MP3 and FLAC is like so close that I really just can't tell the difference personally. Yeah, some folks do like the non-phaser decay. I don't know what's up with that, because I guess the timbre is slightly different on the two, but I think it's more in the treble that they sound a little different. Like the LCD2's got a little bit more of that ethereal electrostat thing. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. So it's a little different. It's a bit weird, honestly. It's hard to describe the way those two present sound with and without the phasers. Okay, I'm not completely crazy then, because I thought that's what I heard. They're really close, though, in detail. I was surprised, but they do have a slightly different presentation because of that. So it kind of makes sense. Now, I heard that the LCD2C's got a different trace pattern as well, so it's not exactly the same driver, but they're pretty close. Let's see. Yeah. If you like the LCD2C for fun usage, yeah, definitely. That does sound realistic to me. Have I tried the Kennerton Valley? No. Did I try the VE Zen? I think I tried the VE Zen once, and I was like, why? Why? The Monk is like 90% of the way there. I don't know, maybe that's going to offend like 1,000 people for me to say that, but I was not very impressed. Actually, I think it was a Zen 2.0 at the time, if I remember right. But yeah, I don't know. The guy who runs Venture Electronics is pretty wild. What's his name again? So I feel like he uses a name like Crazy and then his first name or something like that. I don't remember though. But Venture Electronics, man, are they still around? They're still making the Monk and everything? I assume so because they're on Mass Drop still, I think. Is it Chan? I really don't remember who VE is. I started early. No, it's 3:55 in the afternoon here because we use 12-hour time because we're a bizarre country. But if you like bright, get biodynamics. That's pretty true. The DT880 though, like it's not just brightness though. Like they have a lot of sibilance at 6K as well. So I don't know. It depends. They're definitely aggressive and metallic, but they're definitely on the brighter side compared to the Sennheiser stuff. Is the LCD one the open back to buy right now? See, I don't like this. I was having some debates with people on HeadFi about, like, everyone was like, so, did it dethrone the HE650? And the problem is, if you watch only about 75% of my review, you'll probably get the impression that I recommend the LCD one over the Sennheisers, no matter what. But if you watch at the very end, I said that there's something about the way the mids and the treble are tuned and the timbre of it, without any EQ, that is very reference for me. Yeah, the instruments sound more realistic still. Even though the LCD one is more detailed, it's hard to distinguish. So I would rather leave it up to the community at large for headphones as to what becomes the new favorite. But yeah, I can't say one is absolutely better over the other at this moment. I just think they're both a good value, considering the 6XX is like $220 and that one's $400. It doesn't have a flat bass, not quite. There's a slight low shelf going negative, starting really low. At least that's how it keeps measuring. Although Odyssey claims that it actually can measure with a flat bass. I just haven't seen it yet. You got demeaned at a high-end audio store for using 320k MP3 to test headphones. You know, hi-fi stores are bizarre, man. Like the last time I went to one, I was talking about this at the beginning of the stream where someone asked me about Grados, and I almost laughed in somebody's face after hearing the GS1000. I was like, this can't cost that much. But while we were demoing the couple of headphones they had at a hi-fi store, I swear I saw this one guy demoing a bunch of classical or whatever in like a speaker room, and he's like going around and listening. He's like, did you hear that little thing? This is like, that's like the most stereotypical audiophile thing ever. I swear. It's just, oh man, hi-fi stores are so funny to me. I was at Odyssey when they showed, Dr. C, or they C, showed me the difference as measured in the magnetic field. Oh, the LCD2C and the phaser? Yeah. I thought they used the same magnets, though. So that's pretty interesting. I know that the trace pattern was different, though, from what I remember. Yeah, Dr. C, that's right. What, do you work for Odyssey or something? Because somebody was commenting the other day saying they worked at Odyssey. And I was like, interesting. I can't believe those people are watching my reviews. Well, I know Shankar does, though. He obviously watches my reviews because I talk with him from time to time over email. Let's see. HTC, yeah, I said that already. Talos 3. You'll have to ask Mad Economist about that still. I have no idea what's going on with that. HD800 EQ setting is fantastic if you can't handle the stock brighter sound. I at least think it is. I spent a lot of time trying to get that thing to sound sort of like a 650 or a 600, and I think I mostly achieved it. But you cannot get rid of that 6K peak all the way. It just doesn't disappear. It's just like kind of the way it's ingrained into the timbre of the headphone. You can't really correct it 100%. But it gets sort of there to the point where it's not annoying to me anymore. You just need a lot of peak filter. LCD1 versus LX. I think I talked about this earlier. I don't think either one of those is necessarily better than each other. It's just, they're just different. It's complicated. Also because the LX has a much brighter, different sound. So, let's see. Yeah, somebody bought Max Settings got that great story about somebody walked in and bought an HD820 after listening to them off an iPhone. That's just like, what? I don't even understand, man. It's so strange. I saw someone saying the 58X and the 6XX are recycled drivers from the 600. Wow, yeah, that's not right at all. 58X is definitely some kind of 598 based headphone, and the 6XX is a 650, so I don't know why somebody would say that. Yeah, exactly. The term audiophile has, this guy says, I'd rather call myself an audio enthusiast than an audiophile so that I never become more like those people. Yeah, it's got such a negative connotation now, which I think is kind of funny. But honestly, an audiophile is a broad definition, too. It's not somebody who's just a snob about everything necessarily. It's supposed to mean somebody who just likes audio quality, no matter what it's coming from. But yeah, really negative connotation. That is true. Is Audio 46 bad? I have no idea. I haven't been there. It's probably a nice store, I'm sure. I need to go to the hi-fi stores in New York next time I go, because I haven't been. Still doubt I'll be recognized. We'll see. I only get recognized at the meets, not at the stores. Have I heard the MDR M1 ST? No. Decent DAC and amp to use the 660S. I mean, it will run off of anything, but you know, if you want to just have a simple setup, the S DAC and the JDS add-on will work pretty well. What to buy for $300 open back? Either the 6XX or the LCD1 if you can find it used. Once people start buying and selling it because it's bad, and Metal 571 was totally wrong about it. Ever try to reduce the treble with a tube amp? I have not. You can ask Max about that because he's got a what's it called, Valhalla 2, which is supposedly a tubey amp. I guess it depends on what tubes you're running in it, though, as usual. Actually, it's not a very tubey amp, is it? Isn't it more neutral? I don't remember. Have I tried the LCD XC? Yeah, and this is another one of the oddities that I don't understand because actually, if you look at the Reveal EQ for it, you can Google. Let's see, Odyssey EQ settings or something like that. Oratory extracted, he back extracted the EQ profiles for all of the Odyssey headphones from Odyssey Reveal and posted them. And if you look at the one for the LCD XC, it has, no joke, a 10 decibel cut at 6K. And so I think that tells you everything you need to know about that headphone. It's weird. It doesn't sound anything like another LCD. It's pretty aggressive in the low treble and kind of hazed over. It's not that great, honestly, and it's especially expensive for what that is, so you're not really a big fan of that one. LCD1 has better depth. Yeah, I don't know if it has better depth. It's got really good imaging left to right, but I guess I'll have to let you guys decide if it has depth. Let's see. Ever notice an audible improvement for a custom cable? No. Nope. Oh, somebody asked me about guitar earlier. I was thinking about playing guitar in one of the streams just for fun, but then I have to bring my incredibly heavy tube amp into this room, and that's annoying. But we'll see. Maybe I will eventually. Wow. That's a lot of messages. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. For $800, you can buy an AudioQuest speaker cable. Oh, that's funny. Has anyone tried the HD800 on an Atom? I don't remember if I've tried it with the Atom yet. I haven't even listened to mine in a long time, actually, now. There hasn't been any headphones that were, wide enough to compare it to, really. I'm sure it sounds okay. Just, it's a very clinical headphone. Did I ever try the T50RP? Yeah, I definitely tried the T50RP. I've talked about those mods, and I really annoyed a lot of people on the ZMF Classic review by saying we need to stop making T50 mods. But I'm sorry, but the driver is just always has treble problems that are really annoying. And very few people have been able to solve it. I think Zach's maybe one of the only people. ZMF Classic I didn't really like, but things like the ZMF Blackwood and the ZMF Ori, it's probably about the ceiling of what you can get out of that driver. And it's okay, but expensive. Is this far really worth $6,000? I doubt it, but I haven't heard it at home yet. LCD Classic closed review when? That's the next one. I'm going to be comparing the LCD2 closed to the Atticus that I own. Yeah, we do need an HD 571, I agree. T60RP versus Mod House Mark III Argon. I haven't heard either of those at home yet, so that's not happening. But I will say again, the Mark III on the T50RP Mod House Argon mod was the worst bass quality I might have ever heard in a headphone. It had no distinction between the notes. I don't know why. It was just so off. So that was bizarre. Again, meat impressions. I have no idea. Balanced amp for the 650. You have to ask Max about the amp questions. That's not my thing. Yeah, I know this has come up a lot. Someone needs to have AKG make a K571. Yes, exactly. Those numbers mean absolutely nothing, by the way. It's just some random number I came up with. Play Master of Puppets on guitar. I used to play it like every day, so I could. Just not the solo. Please, not the solo. Not that the solo is that hard, actually. Actually, wait a minute. Kirk's solo is probably not easy at all. Mark IV. No, I've got a what do I have? I have a rectifier, single rectifier. If you're talking about the guitar amp. Do I hate the mid bass bump on the 6XX? You know what? I've gotten kind of used to it, but it would be more correct sounding if it wasn't there, because it is there. Like a guitar solo every time somebody asks about the best closed back end phone under $1,000. I hate that question because there's very few closed headphones in the first place, and they start to get really good after you go above that into like ZMF land. Let's see. Oh, Linus Tech Tips said the 6XX runs fine off a smartphone. I mean, you can listen to it off a smartphone if you want, even though it's not really its best. So technically that's right, but not quite. Have I heard the ALS? Yeah, I reviewed it already. I think the best way to describe the ALS is with the stock pads. It's what people think the LCD2 sounds like, but not quite. If Monoprice named their headphone the M571. Oh boy, I'd get so much flack for that just because it's so similar. Soundstage small on the LCD1, but can you describe it if it's really narrow like the HD600? It's not, like the imaging is better. It's just not wide. Like the 600 and 650 have instruments out to the sides and in the center, but like in between, the panning is not quite right. But the LCD1 fixes that problem. That's the best way I can describe that. Could it sound natural when I heard this as far? Not really. I feel like there was some kind of peak at like the usual 7K spot for hi-fi mins, but no idea, honestly. Focal Leisure review planned. I had one planned at one point, but because I was going to get one from Bloom Audio, but I think he sold the demo unit, so not anymore. But I do want to do the Elysia, because that would be one of the potential picks under $1,000 for a closed back, and I need to review that. But the upshot is that the upper mids are quite recessed on the Elysia, but I didn't really hate anything else I heard about it. But it remains to be seen if its soundstage is competitive for costing like that much. Favorite song to play on guitar? That's a good question. Some of the most enjoyable songs to play are really simple. One that comes to mind is probably For Whom the Bell Tolls. It's so easy, but it's just so much fun to play along with the song. Can I play BYOB? Yeah, probably. I mean, I can play like Angel of Death by Slayer pretty easily, so I should be able to play something fast like that. I just can't play solos. I never really bothered to do lead guitar. Have I tried the Shangri-La? Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. It's really, really detailed, but it's super lean. Like the mids and the treble are not necessarily super colored. It's just that the bass is just this hugely shelved down thing starting at 1K relative to the rest of the sound. It's kind of strange. It's almost like it's both detailed and emphasizing it, but not being super wrong in timbre at the same time. Yeah, it's an interesting headphone. Who's Max and where do I find him? He's literally in the chat. Lamb of God's riffs are harder than Kirk's solos. Oh man, you're killing me. That's probably true. Man, I have to admit, like Laid to Rest takes some real like riffs like that, and the Vomit riff as well from my God, what's that song? Hourglass. That's hard, man. That's like the hardest rhythm metal guitar I've tried to learn. I can sort of play Laid to Rest, but man, those guys are really, really something else. L300 versus LCD1. I have not heard the L300 at home, but it has not impressed me at meets. Let's see. Still run Argon Mark IIs as closed back fun. I hear the Mark IIIs have worse bass detail and just sounds blunted. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was hearing out of them. In fact, even Ryan said he liked the Mark II mod better, I think, overall. But I really wanted him to get the treble down further from the Mark II because it's kind of annoying. But the problem was it sounded like in order for him to do that, he compromised the bass. Can you name all the Spice Girls? Very funny. I'm old enough to supposedly be able to do that, but I was never into that sort of thing. We need an AKG open back in the K702 price range with the new response curve. Yeah, that's what I've been saying too. I'm like, hey, you got the K371 and it sounds like this. Now make some open backs already, because everybody's asking for a K701 replacement. That'll be the biggest news since like the LCD1 coming out. That'll be the biggest news since like the 660S was announced. Ooh, new Sennheiser open back. When is AKG gonna come out with a upgraded, better tuned open back? Because that's what I want to see. Who knows? I certainly don't know. Direct upgrade to K712 Pro. It doesn't exist. That's a very unusual sounding open back. I don't think you're gonna find a frequency response that sounds like that. Hey, the Flux has arrived. Yeah, balance. Yeah, Max is right. Balance has nothing to do with changing a headphone. And tubes don't necessarily change the frequency response either, I would say. And I'll add to that in case someone didn't already mention it. But if you use an OTL tube amp and it's got a very high output impedance, it might change the frequency response of your open back dynamic headphone, depending on what the impedance curve looks like versus frequency. So that's something to keep in mind. And you especially don't want to use something like plugging a Campfire Andromeda into a dark voice. Please do not do that. That's a horrible idea. Or a really low impedance planar into like a 120 ohm output impedance. Such a bad idea. Let's see. Have I heard the Klipsch HP3? Nah, I don't really like the way that sounded. I think it was just kind of spiky in the treble. Not super bright, but the whole thing was just grained over in the treble. I'm not a fan of that thing at all. Yeah, that's true. The Focal Elysia, I've heard those. Actually, I think Max is working on Stellia right now, and he was telling me like, the seal on the Focals is so dependent on the seal for the bass. So I will do some decent amount of listening with the Elysia, and when I do get to it, the Stellia for review, without glasses, because it definitely affects it. In fact, I didn't think the mid bass was that bad. And that much boosted on the Stellia when I listened to it at CanJam, probably because of my glasses now, I'm realizing. It's funny. Let's see. It's all have to do the same thing with the Elysia. And the Elysia mids, the upper mids can probably be EQ'd forward, so I don't think that'll be too much of a problem. They're a little weird, like sounding, like voice-wise, because they have like, once they go up, if you look at the measurements, the Elysia and the Stellia mids, they go up to rear resonance and they do like something like this, and they come back down. I have no idea what's going on there. It's very weird. Oh wow, plus 5 dB without glasses. That's hilarious. Almost no, even closed backs. Most of them don't react like that in my experience. But wow, that will be an exception where I'll have to be careful about what I say. But I'll have to talk about the sound with and without glasses when I get to the bass on that, because that's a problem. If I have the HD 600 650 and I don't need a closed back, is there any reason to consider buying a 371? I say no, honestly. I mean, the 371's got a kind of similar voice in the mids and the highs to a 650. It's why I liked it. But instead, you can think of it, but instead of having a mid-bass hump, there's no hump until you get into the sub-bass, and then there's a rise in the sub-bass. That's kind of how it sounds. Opinion on Olive 6XX review. I don't think he's that far off. I mean, they do have a family resemblance in frequency response, but to me, I am too picky about the difference between those, possibly more than he is, which is weird because he's usually even more of an FR snob than I am a lot of the time. But yeah, I don't know. The 600, 650 are no contest. Like 650, absolutely. And the 660's overall sound is not quite right. It's a little bit brighter in the mid treble. The upper mids are a little bit more recessed, which is fine. I think the 660S is really, at this point, a side grade to a 650, but more efficient. So you're trading some of the timbre, I guess, for being more efficient, which I don't know if that makes any sense because, like, it's not a portable headphone or anything like that. It's bizarre. I keep it around because you can plug the 660S into like stupid devices like phones and laptops and it'll actually run. Not that it'll sound the best, but you wouldn't want to do that to the 300 ohm models, most likely. Let's see. Welcome people who are able to tune in. Maybe I should vary some of the timing on these, but I do them at 3 my time because if I think about it, 6 hours ahead is Europe and Eastern Europe, and then 3 hours behind is over in California. So I'm trying to cover the most people here that I can cover. That's why I'm doing it at this time. Opinions on Redstone IEMs? Nope, I don't really have any because I haven't heard them. So better affordable open back AKG is a waiting game. Yeah, it is right now as far as I know. K245 sounded nice. I haven't heard that one in particular. The 275 is just terrible. Like, oh, I just like they actually sent me the 275 and the K371 at the same time, and when I put the I can't remember which one I tried first. I think I tried the 275 first, and I was like, okay, this is a thing that has far too much mid bass and upper bass, and the mids are super grainy over, and the treble's dead. Okay, whatever. And then I went to the 371. I was like, this is the same company? Like, that's how different those headphones are from each other. And I was talking with Sean Olive about that. I'm like, so wait, what happened with the K275? And Dr. Olive basically said, like, oh, yeah, that was before we had implemented the Harman response on headphones. And I'm like, oh, yep, I can tell that for sure. I definitely am not a fan of that headphone. I don't think plugging it into different amps is going to help at all. I tried it on a 789. It was terrible. Like, it's so unsavable, but that an amp was not enough to fix it. It's not it's not that little of a difference, at least in my experience. So, oh well. It would be fun to hear the 245 to see what they did with that. They need to create an open back K371. No, they need to just make a better K702. That's what we need. Okay, let's see. HD 650's endgame. Everything else is a side grade. There's a lot of people who say that. which I think is kind of funny. In fact, Olive was telling me, because, oh yeah, spoiler alert, he has an LCD-1 now that he's going to talk about eventually. He was like, I was going back to the Sennheisers, and like, they sound grainy to me now. And I was laughing as I was like, yeah, I know. They're pretty good, that Odyssey. It's so funny. LCD-1 fits similar to the Mobius. Yeah, I would say so. Like, it's got that smaller type of ear pad. What, McCann? Is that even how you even say that? McCann? How do you even say that name? It's just so surprised at me saying that the LCD-1 is so much more detailed. Yeah, I'm not lying, man. It's pretty detailed. In fact, and this is something I didn't want to say in the review, but I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to like it more than the LCD-2, even though it's so much cheaper. There are certain things the LCD-2 does better, but the frequency response, the LCD-1 is just bang on by comparison. It's nice. It's McCann. Okay, good. That's good to know. Just in case. Any opinions on ADX 5000? Not really. I mean, I heard it at a meet briefly. I will say it's the most detailed Audio-Technica I've heard. It beats out, I think, pretty much anything I've heard from them so far, including the AD2000, 2000X, A900X, A2000, A2000X, I think I heard as well. It's up there, but I'm not sold on the frequency response being normal at all. Yeah, exactly, Max. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I'm going to let the community decide, but ultimately, I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, everything else is garbage. Nobody should buy anything beyond the LCD-1. And for me, I'm just like, I mean, if you want a natural frequency response, I cannot argue with that. Because a lot of people don't use EQ and hate me because I use EQ at all, so for those people, that's a good option, I have to say. Thoughts on the Cindy Iva? It's really aggressive in the treble, above 10K and stuff, but it was pretty detailed. I have the M570 now, which if you watch this after the fact, you'll see I did a little bit on it already, talking about what it sounds like. But I don't have the Iva here for a direct comparison, though. It's really just going to go up against the LCD-1 because everybody is wondering if it's worth buying the M570 instead for $100 cheaper. Spoiler alert. Not really. Blah, 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 blah. In any chance the LCD-1 will go up in price? No, I don't think so. Odyssey would have said that there was an introductory price, I think. And this is not an introductory price. I believe that is the final price. I don't think you're going to see it go up. Do I plan to review Verum? No. I will not be reviewing a Verum product at all, period. And that's just a personal thing that I'm not going to get into. Have you heard the LCD GX? No, and I want to review that. In fact, someone was saying earlier if I'm going to do the GX versus the X versus the MX4. That is planned. I'm going to get all three of those in, and we'll see what I like the most. I have a feeling it's still going to be the LCD-X, but we'll see. Because the MX4 is just really not good when I heard it at CanJam at all. It just sounded so different than the other LCDs and not detailed, but I have no idea. I haven't heard it at home. We'll see what happens. It doesn't make sense because I believe the MX4 is essentially an LCD-X driver with dual-sided magnets. No, not dual-sided. With LCD4 magnets on it. So you'd think it would have even more control and detail than the LCD-X, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And the LCD GX is a single-sided MX4, essentially. So, LCD-1 build quality, I think you mean chintzy there. I don't think it's that bad. I mean, the HD600 uses a lot of plastic too, so I don't know how much I can fault the LCD-1 for using plastic. You could see that Joshua Valor was not very impressed with the build quality of the Odyssey, but I don't feel it feels solid in the hand. It's just, it's not using all the metal that the higher end stuff uses. Well, it's using some metal. Obviously, the headband is not made of plastic also. But it's another one of those headphones where I think you're still paying more for the sound quality, and I think that's worth it. as long as the pads are large enough. Let's see. LCD 2C 2F treble is only at HD 600 levels of details. Nah, I think it's more like a 650, maybe a little bit better than the 650. And LCD 1 is a little better than, the Sennheisers. Definitely better than that. But I find the two-phaser to definitely be better than the Sennheisers. Also, especially the bass. That's the big difference, I think, between the LCD 1 and the 2. The bass and the stage. Like, the bass has all the details you're looking for, but like the slam is not as good as the larger magnets in the LCD 2. And the soundstage is much wider in the LCD 2 also. So it depends. But the frequency response, again, is not as natural. FR is not as good when you EQ it. So it's complicated to compare the LCD 1 and the LCD 2. But I feel like a lot of people are going to find the LCD 1 to be a much better value because, first of all, the frequency response. If frequency response is number one, again, I think it's going to be a pretty good hit for them. Not heard the revamped M100. There's a new M100? I didn't even know there was a new M100. That's pretty interesting. DT1990 is rather trebly, to say the least. Sold my 58X. Canceled my order for Argons. Immediately ordered the LCD 1. You did the right thing. Trust me. That is such a large upgrade over those two headphones. If you can do an open back, that's the one right now. That or the 6XX, depending on what you value. But the 6XX is much cheaper, so if you can spend $399, I think it's worth trying the LCD 1. Tried the 599, pretty shrill. The mids are a bit aggressive and the treble is a bit aggressive, but again, the soundstage on those and the detail they put out for being, I think they're like $149 now, is absolutely one of the best in that price range for an open back headphone. And again, I EQ them, so yeah, they're a bit forward. So, but some people don't mind them at all. The higher end, I don't think the mids are poorly tuned, they're just forward. The 600 and 650 are a slightly warmer edition of that kind of sound, so fine to me. Have I heard the Utopia? I have spent some time with the Utopia now over at Bloom Audio. I have to say, I thought the detail would be better on those, and for some reason, it sounded like it wasn't quite as good as what I heard out of them at CanJam. But the decay, even though that's a relatively bright headphone, the Utopia, the decay is so fast that it doesn't really fatigue me. That's a really unique kind of sounding headphone. And as Flux, if you don't even know if he's still in here, will tell you, it's very amp dependent. Like I was immediately able to tell a difference between the iFi Pro iCan and the Hugo 2 that we had on hand. Spoiler, the cord is so much better, but I'm exaggerating because amp differences are still subtle compared to headphones, obviously. However, that was pretty interesting of an experience. I like the way that cord sounded for sure, but it's also like, what, $2,000, something stupid. I've seen the Beats Solo Pro. That's a thing now. That's funny. Yeah, the HD 600 pads don't last very long, so I guess you could call them crap. $2,600 for the Hugo 2. Thank you. Yeah, that's more than I want to spend on something right now. Definitely wouldn't call myself a cord shill because I have no idea how that compares to other amps that are way cheaper. I'm surprised that the Utopia isn't more detailed than it is, though. Yeah, Utopia on CanJam amps has a much larger budget. That's true. So that's pretty interesting. I wonder if those... I don't remember what they were plugged into at CanJam, though. I'll have to pay attention to that now. What I should do is unplug one and plug it into my OnePlus dongle and compare it like that and see what happens. That will be funny. Stelia does use the same drivers as the Utopia, as far as I know. However, they have a heavier voice coil. They're 32 ohm, not 80 ohm, which I think is ridiculous. Yeah, because is it 30 ohm or 32? I thought it was 32. Maybe it's 30, but They're really efficient, but I don't think they needed to trade that much efficiency off. Like, if you're paying $3,000 for a closed-back headphone, what are you doing bringing that outside of the house? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And yeah, also, the Utopia is already not that hard to drive. So yeah, I don't really get it. That was weird. Let's see. IE800? I have no idea. Have not tried that. Any opinion on the blonde B20? No, I don't have that, but I have the monoprice M570, which I talked about earlier in the stream. Yeah, 80 is already low, but sensitivity matters too, and as far as I know, it must have been a fairly high sensitivity. Maybe somebody can find me the sensitivity of Utopia. I wouldn't imagine it's that much less than 100 dB per milliwatt if I had to guess. Jacqueline Float is style endgame. Oh man, I like that one. I always wanted to hear that one. It's actually still on my list of things to hear. I'm coming from a 380 Pro. Oh boy, you have a lot of ways to go there in terms of being able to upgrade, which is nice. I guess I have one of those, and it's already been replaced by the 371. 104 dB per milliwatt. Oh wow, that is really efficient. Yeah, I don't know why they lowered the impedance. That's dumb. I know the Belon B20 uses Sendiaiva driver, so does the M570. Yeah, okay, so 380 to something above that. Do you have an amp, though? That's the problem. You gotta have an amp if you're going to be upgrading from that, most likely. Actually, that's not true. LCD1 would be the pick there. You don't even need an amp for that. If you're coming from the 3D Pro, that would be a huge jump. So I would probably spring for that. If you can spend $400, that's the one right now. Yeah, exactly. Anyone taking a $3,000 closeback outside has a DAP with enough juice to push a Utopia. So why in the world did they lower the impedance on the... Because for those who don't know, when you lower the impedance on a headphone, you put more windings in the coil, which means the moving mass gets heavier. And when it gets heavier, that means the driver is less detailed. Pretty simple, really. You can actually do that. You can figure that out for yourself if you buy 3 DT880s, one with 32, one with 250, and one with 600 at home. If you really want to, you can compare those against each other. The frequency response is almost perfectly identical, but the detail is significantly different between them. That's an easy way to prove that. You can't really measure detail like that, but from what I've heard talking with Odyssey, the weight of the driver has a lot to do with detail, even though we don't know how to look at it in a graph yet. Oh, and the Stellia only has one magnet? It's sad. Just put all the magnets in there. Just put them all the magnets. That's what this stream is. I'm looking for a headphone that has all the magnets. I knew you were going to chime in on that, Bo Hizzy. Hopefully what I said is right, because that's what they've been telling me anyway. Let's see. Small spoiler about the M570. I talked about them earlier in the stream. They, again, feel a little bit unfinished. They're a little bit bizarre, but I think they're acceptable now, whereas the M1060 was just completely broken. I would never buy that. So, a little bit better, but, you know, I think the LCD1 is a no-brainer if you can spend the extra $100, that's for sure. Icon or Otor? Oh, definitely the open back. You always want to go with the open back ZMF Dynamic if you're looking for soundstage and detail. $300 to $400 open back with no amp? Oh, but you're planning on buying one? Oh, that becomes more complicated. Honestly, it just sounds like I'm shilling the LCD1 all day, but right now, you might even be able to get away with not buying an amp if you get one of those. As long as the soundstage being somewhat narrow like a Sennheiser doesn't bug you. Did I like the Night Owls? Well, they sound more normal to me than the Nighthawk, but again, that's a mean impression, so it's only so good. Okay, $3,000 headphones in brown leather is a very French thing to do. That's hilarious. Hi, Larko. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, exactly. Also known as max settings. You get to show off your $1,000 headphones. Sorry, $3,000 headphones with your $1,000 iPhone Pro Max. Like I told Max, if you don't buy an iPhone 11 Pro Max with a 512 gig option for $1,449, are you even an Apple fan at all? Like, let's be honest here. LCD1 with LCD4 driver when? Please give me this. That would be pretty great, because they could reuse the film from the LCD4, and as long as it sounds correct, unlike the LCD4Z, that would be pretty good. Magnets, how do they work? With magnetism. That was the worst answer I think I've ever given on this stream. Yeah, that's true. LCD4 has all the magnets. Yep, it really does. That's why it weighs such a stupid amount. Although the head-to-phone is, if that really comes out being 900 grams, I will be impressed, because that's going to be tough to push on people. Yep, that's right. That's what I was talking about, Slappo, the M570 measurement by Antdroid. If you look his up, you'll see what I'm talking about. Whenever you see a discontinuity, actually, you know what? I'd be interested to hear what Bo Hizzy has to say about that. When you see a discontinuity like this, and then continuing in the frequency response, something very wrong is happening in the time domain, as far as I know. That's like a direct indicator of some really strange problem in decay. That's exactly what happened at the M1060 at 4.5K. Oh, really? Your LCD4 is only 697 grams? That's lucky. I measured mine, and I think it was almost exactly 735, which is the spec. You got a lighter one. Lucky. Yeah, usually ringing. Now, CSDs are not normally audible, as far as I know, from people I've talked to, because most headphones are minimum phase, or can be treated as minimum phase. They're not perfectly minimum phase. However, talking with Audeze, it's not that simple either. But I've seen some headphones with pretty bad CSD that sound perfectly okay, like that whole planar ortho wall thing that SBAF loves to talk about, or at least they used to when they were called Changstar. But I've never really experienced hearing that on a headphone, so I don't really know if ringing is necessarily just looking at CSD on its own. Because most of the time, that's the minimum phase headphones. People who are totally lost is what I'm talking about here. Minimum phase headphone means that you can represent the impulse response and the frequency response are just two ways of representing the same data, actually. When you have ringing in a headphone, that means that the headphone driver actually has a resonance that's a real problem at certain specific frequencies, and it's exactly the problem that the M1060 has, at least as far as I understand it. This is what I used to think. Isn't decay speed related to detail capabilities? Again, you cannot infer that from a CSD. That's one of the things I learned early on in this hobby. Not early on. Actually, way too late. I should have known that much earlier. I used to think that, and then I think I probably said it a bunch of times, and then later on I realized it was completely wrong. At the end of the day, there's this one thing, and it's called your ears, and you should use your ears to listen to the headphones and not a bunch of graphs. So, ultimate metal headphone, like heavy metal headphone, LCDX, I guess LCDX is pretty good. Yeah, HP3 would be too harsh, especially for some of the recordings. Let's see, ultimate metal headphone. I really like the ZMF Atticus. Oh, you know what else is really fun? Even though it's far from neutral, DT770, man. That's a pretty V-shaped headphone, so the guitarists don't get too overly aggressive. This thing puts out stupid amounts of bass, though, like sub bass, so that might be way too much. I just measured it and posted it on my Twitter, by the way. It has like a +8 dB boost at like 40 hertz, so it's kind of funny. I am so far behind. I'm sorry if I missed a bunch of your questions. Thank you, John, for saying I rock. What I end up doing with my X00 Ebony. Most headphones that come through here that get reviewed now Uh, oh my God, Andrew. Thank you for the super chat from podcast that she wants to have a tickle fight with me. And now we're talking. Really appreciate that super chat there. Obviously, completely threw me off with that one. Did not expect that at all. What was I saying? Oh, the X00 Ebony. It wasn't mine at all. It belonged to another viewer, so I had to send it back to him. And I do not take money from companies if I am reviewing a company's headphone at all. So standard procedure is they have to be able to send it to me. I can say whatever I want, whenever I want, anytime I want about that product, and then it goes back to them. Sometimes, and this might cause bias that's going to annoy people, after the review, sometimes they'll be like, yeah, just keep them. But the important thing is I never, ever ask for that. I never promise that I will want a headphone to keep it or whatever. Hey, give me free things is stupid. Nobody should be doing that. That would cause some bias. But I admit the 371s, they let me keep them after the review. I didn't ask for any of that. Which I'm just glad they let me keep them because they are super awesome and I am such a fan of them. And it sounds like a lot of other people are too, which is good. Which is why Bandrew needs to buy one. What else do we got? Is it true that the M570 is the next dumpster fire like the M1060? No, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. But I'm not really a big fan. I would say it's acceptable. That's what I'm going to say. Which, for a lot of people, probably won't be worth $299. But I wouldn't be surprised if a bunch of other reviewers are like, ooh, best thing ever. Not really. Let's see. I want a good pair of IEMs. I am not the IEM guy. Oh, crap. Oh, max settings puts money into it, so I guess I have to do this now. Where's the cable for this thing? Let's see. He actually asked me to wear them for the whole stream to see how long I could put up with them. Because the upshot is something is really... Before I put them on, I'll show you what I mean. The problem with these things is this. Look at this. Now, I don't know if you know, Max, if this happened while you had them or if this is just the way they are. Look at the headband pad here. It's flat right where your ear rests on it. So, like, there's nothing. There's just no padding here. And, like, oh, sorry about the plosive. And this is made of metal up top here. That's got to be the stupidest design I've ever seen. And it is bad. So, ear reveal. I did an ear reveal earlier because I had to go get the Neumanns at the beginning of the stream. I did like a body reveal. Okay, that sounds really wrong. Sorry. Wow, I can't believe that that's how it is though from the factory. That's terrible. Yeah, K371. That's right. New THX amp. Yeah, I saw their measurements on that. It is good, but I don't know if it sounds good subjectively. Those are two separate things. Just like frequency response on headphones does not tell you the whole story with amps and DACs either. All right, let me switch this. It feels so weird talking without having a monitoring headphone on. Oh, here it goes. Here's all the ear reveal. You guys are hilarious. Also, why is the wire on the right side of the headphone? Nobody does that. Everybody puts the cable on the left side of the headphone, and on this one it's on the right. It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I guess I'll do a mini review of the DH20. Hopefully this is not too sensitive. Okay, that sounds alright. Oh, definitely not as sensitive as the 371, but not too hard to drive. What's the real Metal 571 murdered? Oh, I can't decide where I want to wear the... There we go. This is the... Here, I'll show you closer. This is the Neumann NDH20. which is made by Sennheiser, actually. And the pads are not super deep, but actually my ears don't touch the inside of the pad. The problem is the pads are not flat and then inward. They're kind of like this. And so my ear touches where this goes inward smoothly. It's not that great. They're not quite on ear, but they're not as bad as like an M50, but they're not great either. Surprisingly, this actually sounds kind of okay. These are also really sensitive to seal. And so like when I'm wearing glasses with these, you want to see something really crazy? Here's something I've never done on the stream or anywhere. There. Now your mind is blown. Now your mind is really blown. Put those back on. I literally never take those off. Yeah, exactly. Eyebrow Reveal is probably the funniest one because my eyebrows have always been so light that they almost look like they don't exist. Now you can tell I'm Polish. Hey, this doesn't sound bad as a monitoring headphone. I'm surprised because the trouble was getting me originally with music. Anyway, thank you for the super chat there, Nick SF. I've seen you on a lot of forums. Thanks for being a fan. He says, or she says, or they say, do you find any benefit of running a headphone balanced versus single-ended? Besides power, no. Usually, and I guess Max, correct me if I'm wrong, as far as I know, usually the topology of the amp, like the way the amp's built, isn't really different for the different outputs at all. It's really just the same kind of thing. So it's usually almost always just power. So really, I don't use balanced very much, except when I need it. Like the LCD4 is basically unusable without a balanced connection just because it's so hard to drive, for example. Like I think you can get away with running an HE6 balanced off a 789 also, but that's even harder. You might even want a speaker amp for that one. So, but yeah, generally balanced, the sound quality is pretty much the same, at least in my experience, but I'm not very good at judging amps and DACs anyway. Let's see. Bifrost 2 could be your DAC of choice over the S-DAC balanced. What about the new one? Isn't there a Bifrost 3 now? Okay, thoughts on the NDH20? I meant to do that. Oh, you actually tried the Neumanns? I didn't know you did that, Andrew. That's pretty funny. They're okay, but for $399, aren't they like, what, like $400 or something? I don't know how I feel about that. But then again, the X00s I don't think are really a particularly great value at $400 either. So, oh man, super chats are starting to come in. I guess I'm going to stream for 2.5 hours now. Hey, I do this for you guys, so I really appreciate the money here. $500. Ooh. Yeah, that's really pushing it now. Ugh. Me being Polish explains why some people send him headphones. What? Wait, what does that have anything to do with it? That's really funny. Oh, God. Oh, really? Bifrost 2 is the new one. Okay, thanks. I didn't even know that. I don't know why. I don't know why I thought there was a 3 already. HE6 is not good on the 789. Wow. I guess it's the same thing with the Susvara then too, Flux, because that one's also hard to drive, isn't it? No, that's just heritage. I'm such a mutt, and as you can tell by my accent, I'm just American. And if anything, you probably tell that there's a little bit of New York going in there, which is part of it. I'm not from New York. I'm still from New Jersey, though. But yeah, my heritage includes a lot of Polish, that's all. I don't know anything beyond like Czech and Yakshimash and Dolbja and things like that. That's about it. Really nothing. Do an exaggerated New Jersey accent. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and then get some hoagies. That's like South Jersey and Philly area right there. And they don't call them sprinkles either. They call them jimmies over here for some stupid reason. And Brooklyn would be like New York. Brooklyn. I don't know. Not that I'm good. My last name is a password. It's not 18. Has it 18 characters? I actually don't even know. It's long, though. I'm going to sample that. Somebody's going to turn some stuff I say for one of these streams into a song. Oh, man, that would be funny. Our accents just EQ for language. Oh, my God, you guys are hilarious today. Really? Mac and cheese is pasta and gravy? What? I don't even know, man. Oh, yeah, dog. Yeah, that's... No, I'm dog, not dog. Wait, who's Ruck? Wait, where's Ruck? I don't even see him. Oh, you must know what his special name is in here, because I don't even... Oh, Amar, that's right. Oh, my God. No wonder I'm finding that hilarious. I know the guy. Why didn't I even realize that? That's great. Our accents. Yeah, you just need to remember, Ruck, that the most important thing is just EQ the headphone. It fixes everything. Like every single thing about it. Just go to Oratory's EQ, slap it on there, and every headphone's the same. EQ Borealis. For those who don't know, Aurora's Audio is going to be releasing some headphones eventually, and Amar is the head of that, and it's tuned to try to be the best upgrade from that HD 580 possible. So some hype for that. Tell me how to EQ for detail, Sean. All of a sudden it's possible. I'm so glad you're on this stream. And Sim Kunoa, I probably pronounced that completely wrong. Tell Odyssey not to muck up the closed LCD1. I did, actually. You know, I got so many comments. Oh, and thanks for the super chat there. I had so many comments about the closed back version of the LCD1 that I told him straight up, I'm like, you know, everyone wants the LCD1C, so I hope you guys make it. So, yeah, I know about Kennerton. That's something I want to work with. I was watching this other guy's channel, William Murdoch, the Headphone Experience, that channel, and he's doing some Urzatish headphones. That could be completely the wrong pronunciation. Somebody from Europe, please correct me. They've got a bunch of headphones as well over there that are, there's one planar and one dynamic that's supposed to be decent. Or is it Tech? Oh, thank you. That helps. And so I forgot that they had actually reached out to me, because I was like, what is this name? And then I realized they've started to circulate a little bit on reviews, so I'm going to try to line them up, and I want to do Kennerton's as well. But if something really popular comes out that I need to review, you know, like this wonderful, great $3 headphone, then I'll have to, you know, reorganize the order of things. That's like why the LCD1 came out so quickly. I did that review in under a week. Can you believe that, guys? That's impossible for me. That's how excited I was for it. Oh, that's the Monoprice M570. LCD1 versus NDH20 price aside. Oh, not even close. Definitely the LCD1. Possible for Z in an hour. You guys are savage. Okay, let's see. If I tried an HD 580, yeah, I did. I actually reviewed it in a. I've made like I've made like 3 or 4 videos on the Sennheiser 6X0s at this point, and there was at least one where I compared the 580 to the other two. At least the 580 that I heard was basically an HD 600 with less mid bass hump. So, but some of them apparently don't have as much upper mid peak either. So I don't know. I have to hear a couple of 580s and then I'll decide. But those who know prefer the 580 over the 600, 650, and 660S, and obviously the 58X. So, try the MDR Z1R. No, I won't love them. Trust me. I already know. M570 actually good. I talked about it earlier in the stream. It's acceptable. That's about it. This is the Neumann NDH20, yes. I'm waiting for the Hyphaman 1000 SE. Send me yours. That's what I tell everybody. Send me yours. I depend on viewers and try not to depend on companies for sending me stuff. Which EQ do I use? That is Equalizer APO, and I use a open source plugin called Peace for it, which basically just makes it easier to edit the file for the config. What do you want from me? The LCD2? Grading Custom 1 Pro to 1990 Pros. Ooh, I'm not sure about that. Actually, the Custom 1 Pro is probably the only biodynamic I know of, other than the DT250, that doesn't have extremely insane treble. Oh, and the DT880, obviously. So I wouldn't do that. I would probably go with an 880. And not the Pro. The Pro has too much clamp. Regular 880. APO is pretty useful, yep. MDR Z7, no, not good. It's funny. One of the Best Buys near me has a display that has the what was that, Z7? The Z7 and the MDR1A next to each other. And I think I laughed out loud also after I put on the MDR1A after the Z7 because it was just so much more detailed. And yet that headphone is way more expensive than the 1A. I was like, what? Yeah, I'm not really a fan of the Z7. Z literally reviewed 5 ZMFs in like 1 to 2 days. Yeah. That's why it takes me at least a week to do anything, because my opinion almost always changes in the first couple of days. Metallica confirmed not good recording and mastering because Lars is short. Remember, it's the height of the drummer that determines the quality of the recording. It's the most important thing. Do I listen to music on speakers at all? I have a home theater that's supposedly calibrated because it's got a measurement mic that came with the receiver. So that's something I find interesting. That doesn't sound too bad to me, but I don't have any good rooms really to listen to music on speakers that are like properly treated, so very infrequently. Gamers want open backs with RGB lights and 7.1 surround. Yeah, Odyssey needs to scrap the Mobius and make up a new one that has 60,000 LEDs on it. Then somebody will actually start buying it. Icon or Atticus for tin. Why can't I never pronounce that word? Is it tinnitus or tinnitus? I can never figure out which one that is. But anyway, I know what that is. I wouldn't do that. I would get like a 650, honestly. You know, you want something that's pretty easygoing, especially if your ringing is in the highs. Why is my air conditioning not come on yet? Oh, Nest. I have not gotten into IEMs yet. Headphones have ruined speakers for me. Let's see. Our community should start a headphone lend-lease thing. You know, some companies have tried to do that, like Lumoid. I reviewed an LCD. The first time I reviewed the LCD3, it was actually from Lumoid, and it was actually horrible because that was like a 2015 model that was, I guess, one of the bad ones. But they quickly stopped doing that. I don't remember why. Maybe somebody else does. Lending headphones is tough. I think the cable company still lends headphones, though, actually. So you can demo them, which is pretty interesting. And headphones.com, not to plug them, because I actually haven't worked with them, at least not yet. I think has like a 365-day return policy, so I assume that you can exchange one headphone for another to do that. Thank you for the super chat, Zyle FBB. That's a cool name. I agree on Argons, but I keep him as a role player because bass impact is missing on 80s pop. Oh, okay. What's the upgrade for that role? I mean, improving the bass quality will improve it no matter what genre we're talking about. I guess it depends on how much you want to spend if you're trying to upgrade from that. That would be my follow-up question then, most likely. I guess the X00. would have some really nice bass impact. Yeah, that's true. $300 and under though. And does it have to be closed back? Because that's a tough question there. Oh, okay. I don't know. What do you guys think, Max? Just a better headphone than Argon? I mean, most things are probably better than Argons that I'm going to recommend. But I guess if you want the V-shaped sound signature, yeah, I mean, you could buy a used X00 probably for that price, I would imagine. And that would keep the V-shaped kind of signature going from the Argons. That's probably something I would try. Yeah, it's probably worth looking at. Ever heard the Chord Dave? No. Although Flux has one, and apparently it's the best thing ever because, expensive. No, that's not why. If he's still in here, maybe he can talk about the Dave. Moldy. The moldiest headphone. Dude, there's no mold on here. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just dusty. You guys are killing me. Moldy DT770. I haven't had a headphone that had a non-removable cable in a while, so that was off-putting. But hey, these are really fun, honestly, and it's nice to get one again because, again, like I said earlier, there was the second one I bought of these didn't sound like the original at all, so it's a good hint that the older chassis, you'll definitely get the right DT770 80 ohm. This is like the absolute limit of treble I will go to, by the way. It's like the brightest headphone that I will ever listen to that I can actually still tolerate. Essentially is what that is. You also need one like the 6XXO with more bass. No, not exactly. There's more bass extension, but there's no mid-bass hump at all. And the mids are not quite the same. The mids are... wow, this cable is terrible. Just realized how, sorry for the ADD moment, but what in the world? This is the most, memory holding cable ever. This is terrible. Anyway, where was I with this? Oh, yeah, the mids on the LCD1 are definitely not as forward at all than the 6XX. They're still a little bit forward, but for me, but not as much. And there's a little bit of a 2K dip instead of a rise there. Oh, God, it doesn't work with 598 cables either. Come on. I think I have some periapt cables for 598, so I'm going to play with that. Or wait a minute. What about M40X cable? Is that compatible? I don't remember. I don't have one, but maybe I have a cable that would work with it. Oh, that's a terrible cable. Did you also like the Focal Clear? Yeah, I think the Clear is pretty good. I think it's more detailed than the Alex and Illyr, but I haven't had it at home yet. But it's still got that metallic thing going on at 10K, so really narrow. I'll have speaker and headphone database. I as much as he enjoys and I find interesting to listen to that stuff, the main DSP ears is just not an accurate measurement system, so it's essentially limited by the recording device. Let's see. The mold is just a natural felt mod. That's good. Are there EQ presets for certain headphones? I am doing that on most of my reviews. So yes. This isn't that bad as a monitor, but $500, man. Wow. That's too much. Definitely too much. Newer 770 come with a strange cable. Really? How is it strange? The 80 ohm always comes with a straight cable, so that's a little bit weird about it. Well, if you want to see... oh, it's the other Max. The other Max has joined. Nice videos, by the way. It's hilarious. I've tried the Andromeda recently. That's something that people are probably curious on how I've reacted to. And the upper, essentially the Andromeda to me sounds like it's got this really wide mid-bass hump that goes all the way into the upper bass. It sounds like the Graph, actually, believe it or not. And then there's a dip at 1K, And then the upper mids are wrecked. Like you gotta boost them a couple dB at least. They're just not there. But the treble's fine. And for a grand though, like that's I don't know how I feel about that. It is better than Ether C Flow. Oh, the Neumanns are? Yeah, I could see that. Probably because they actually do have dynamics of some kind. LCD1 or Lex. Personally, I would go with the LCD1. Yeah, K553 breaks seal on a lot of heads. That's definitely a problem with it. I don't think the 371 has that issue because it clamps a lot more. So that's something that they fixed. Alternative to the DT770 with removable cable. Honestly, you could try the X00 Mahogany, I guess, with that. Still got that kind of bassy signature with a little bit of mid-treble zing to it. Why headphone cables so abhorrent to making normal length headphone cables? I don't know. And this is something that I really like about the K371 because it comes with 3 different cables. So you've got plenty of options for length of cable. But yeah, I guess a lot of these headphones that are, especially the ones that are presumed for studio use, have these really long cables. I don't know. List of tracks for testing headphones. I do, but it doesn't have that much to do with, it's a mix of stuff that I listen to that I'm familiar with and classic stuff that everybody uses, like Steely Dan Aja and Yoshi Horikawa, Letters and Bubbles and all that stuff. Letter, not Letters. Letter. Sorry, I keep messing that up. I've got some Haywire in there that I pulled from Zeos because I thought that was interesting to test sub bass. I've got some metal, I've got some trance, I've got some hardstyle stuff that I actually listen to. I've got Medeski, Martin, and Wood. It's jazz. Got some classical. I've got everything really, except for country because I don't know, I can't stand country, but that's just me. So I've tried to test all the genres to see how things react to everything, really. No, that's about it. I think it was just Haywire, actually. It's the only stuff that I used that I've heard from his sound demos, which are not accurate. I just like the track, too. What else we got here? Philips Fidelio X2HR, have not heard them. Yeah, that's right. Obviously, X00 is just like that. In fact, they measure almost the same in the frequency response, which is interesting. But obviously, the bass impact is better. Biodynamic bass is pretty fun. Haywire is pretty wild. Yeah, I agree. It's fun, though. Which do I prefer while playing guitar? Like, what do you mean? Like using simulation? Like amp sim or monitoring mics while playing guitar? Or I don't actually use any amp sims anymore because I just have real tube amps now. That sounds like a flex, but it's just true. All right, we're going to wrap it up here in a couple minutes, which, of course, every time I say that, it's going to be about 2,000 questions, I bet. But we're going to end at 5:15 here. Well, my time. So 7 minutes. We're going to start wrapping it up now. Let's see what else we got here. K550 preset. Oh, I don't think I reviewed the K550 with EQ because I wasn't using it at the time. I will have to get back to you on that because I don't have it at the moment. Actually, I might actually have it on piece at the moment. I'll look it up for a second. Soundwave track. So funny. Best headphone for ASMR, asking for a friend. Why do I feel like the HD800 would be the excellent, the best ASMR headphone? Because, listening to binaural audio, you'd probably want the best soundstage, wouldn't you? So there's an option. Real tube amps, yeah, Mesa Boogie, single rectifier in my case. And I have a Mesa DC5 also. I don't know about real tube amps, but because my rectifier doesn't actually have switchable rectifier diodes or rectifier tubes like the dual rectifier does, but it still gets you that same kind of sound. Heartbreaker. Wait, who makes that? Is that the name of the brand? Is like a boutique amp that I haven't heard of? I do not have kids. Oh, the Mesa Heartbreaker. Okay, yeah, I think I have heard of that. That's cool. I'll have to look at that. But I'm a metalhead, so obviously I got the rectifier. But I kind of want a Mark 5, but yeah, I don't want to spend like $2,000 on it though. LCD2 phaser used or LCD1? Difficult question, you know. We were having that debate earlier, and essentially the LCD2 phaser has a more colored frequency response, but wider soundstage, better bass slam, slightly better bass extension. But yeah, you'd have to EQ it. And the LCD1, you don't need EQ at all. And the detail on the two, I think, are pretty similar. Might be better on the LCD1, honestly. I don't know. I haven't actually compared them back to back yet, but I know what the LCD2 sounds like because I own it. It's like my daily. So, but yeah, I don't know. Detail, it might just be that the LCD1 it does have a slightly boosted air region. So, can't you EQ the slam on the LCD1? I really hope that is sarcastic. Or that's probably totally the wrong word. I'm losing my mind, apparently. I would say the T90s for ASMR. Oh, yeah, I was going to say that's going to hurt, man. It's going to be bad. Headphones versus speakers. This gets asked a lot. I think the main reason why I don't do speakers is because I don't want to bother with all the room treatment necessary, because it's just so much of that needed to really get speakers to sound their best. That's one reason why headphones are quite an interesting thing to me. ASMR is better with an intimate soundstage? That is a good question. I don't know, honestly. Yeah, Q701, yeah, you could do that. I was serious about trying to answer that question, though. And yeah, I appreciate the super chat. That's really nice of you. Thanks. What's the best car for rally racing, and why is it the Lancer Evo 8? Nice. You don't like the WRX, do you? Oh God, don't ask me things like that. Worst headphone reviewer. It's always me, because I'm always going to be hard on myself and say I don't have a B&K 5128C. Therefore, all my reviews are wrong because I don't have an accurate frequency response. Dynamics and timbre between LCD 1 and 2. I don't think the timbre is great on either of them, especially compared to the Sennheisers. But the dynamics on the 2 are definitely better than the 1, especially the bass. So it's a trade-off. Yeah, but the thing is, frequency response, you guys are big fans of good frequency response, so LCD1 really beats it there. I wonder, because I bet the Sine actually had better dynamics in the LCD1 now that I think about it. But yeah, it's too bad. I think it's way too uncomfortable. I don't think the LCD1 has like old LCD3 like mushy compressed bass slam, but it's not as good as the modern LCD2 though. Ever listened to the K1000? Yeah, briefly. Actually, I think it was Rux. Very, very briefly, though. So I didn't really get a chance to have any good impressions on it. As far as I know, it doesn't have that much bass. But yeah, obviously the soundstage is what it's famous for. Is it dumb? Not weird. Is it dumb that people sell the HD600 by the SHP 9500? Honestly, yep. I would not do that personally. M50X soundstage with the T90 high end. Are you describing a T70? Has anyone even heard the T70 here? Because I've always wanted to try one of those, although I'm sure it's not that good. Yeah, LCD1 is pretty comparable to... I think it's a little closer to Mobius on the default EQ setting. But the LCD, considering the LCD1, here's a tidbit for you. Considering the LCD1 and the Mobius share the same magnetic structure, yeah, that's probably at least part of the reason why they have a similar frequency response. Let's see. Worst headphones I've ever heard. That's a good question. Probably one of my least favorite headphones ever, though, I will say, is a 7506. Oh, that's a terrible headphone, too. Max Settings really hates the Voce, the Mr. Speaker's Electrostat. Is that just mainly because of the dynamics? The dynamics are just terrible. The first time I heard the Voce, not only were the dynamics zero, but on top of it, it was much grainier than the 009 he had literally side by side with it. I was shocked that Dan was so adamant about putting those two side by side at a meet, because I think it was kind of embarrassing, honestly. 7506 is... I think the biggest thing about the 7506 that annoys me is the fact that it got recommended so much for audiophiles. That doesn't make any sense at all. It's a monitoring headphone that's aggressive on purpose, and apparently anyway, and it's not designed for listening to music. And yet Headfi exploded over it, being like, yeah, listen to music on it all the time and it's great. And I'm like, what? Yeah, not a fan. The 7506 sounds like the vintage headphone that it is. Not a fan. What's your go-to DAC? Right now I'm using an S-DAC and an Atom at work, and I have an S-DAC Balanced and a THX 789 at home. Alright, let's see. Take one more. Ever tried Kennerton? No, I haven't, but that's something that's on my list. I also reached out to Tech about their headphones as well. Alright, guys. Thank you for all your questions and super chats and everything. Apparently everyone really loves watching me stream, so that's why I keep doing this, and I do it because you guys enjoy it. So and my air conditioning finally turns on right at the end. That's perfect timing. So I will see you guys in the next stream. Thanks for being part of this community, and see you guys soon. As Max Settings would say, bye.